can't Canadian prospects see that competencies are transferable? So if you're not born in Canada, but you're now doing business in Canada, you're in the right place. Click the subscribe button, set up the alert. If this video is useful for you, let us know by clicking the like button. Let's see what happens here. This is the kind of situation I'm presented with frequently by immigrant people doing business in Canada. People tell me, listen, I'm clearly showing my business's capabilities here, and why don't they want to buy from me? Like, what's missing? Why can't they see the obvious, which is I have all these competencies, but they don't seem to believe that applies to their specific case? What's their problem? What's missing in the way Canadians understand what I'm telling them? So when you're trying to demonstrate, to show your business's capabilities, usually you're starting from an experience back home, right? And especially if you're coming from an emerging country, this really applies to you. So in emerging countries, what we have first is we have an ability to demonstrate that we solved problems back home. And we started solving these problems with a certain lack of clarity. It's like, my client called me, they had a problem, we sat down, we worked through it, then we identified what really was a problem, and then we delivered this special solution that nobody thought was possible, and there we go, everybody's happy. So there's that discovery phase, right? When the problem solving starts with a lack of clarity. It wasn't even clear what the problem was, but you see, this is how good we are at solving problems. We identify, we go to the core, to the heart of the problem, identify it, and create a solution for it. So this seems on the surface to be a great skill to display for your business. And you say, listen, if we did this back home, and imagine what we can do here for you. We're really good at solving problems. Second thing I hear from people is, look at this, we were operating back then under very challenging environment, under a very challenging operating environment. And here the operations are even simpler. And we had this very resourceful execution. We were able to piece things together and we deliver. So you see how good we are, how creative we are, how resourceful we are. Therefore, it's obvious that in your case, we're going to do a fantastic job. This is what you may be thinking when you're trying to demonstrate your capabilities. The other thing too, very common I hear, is that people say, wow, we delivered the highest level of quality and we exceeded expectations. Isn't that great? Isn't that what everybody wants from a supplier? If I can show that I have a track record of delivering high quality and exceeding expectations, why people are not more interested in talking to me? Or even you may be thinking low prices. Well, our prices is even lower because we have a big part of our cost base in a low cost jurisdiction and with talented people and whatnot. And we are able to deliver these solutions here at a very low prices. So why people are not more interested if I'm offering low prices? So again, I'm showing that I can solve problems even when the problem is not very clear. I'm showing that I'm very resourceful at execution in a very challenging operating environment. I'm showing that I can deliver the highest level of quality and exceed our expectations. And I'm showing that I even have lower prices. And yet, Canadian prospects don't seem to convert. They still think, yeah, but so what's not to like about everything that you may be showing Canadians? Well, here are the blind spots in all this line of thinking. What you may be actually doing here is you may be asking too much from the Canadian prospect. You may be asking them to do a giant leap of faith. What do I mean by that? You say, no, there's no leap of faith at all. I'm just providing evidence of everything we've done. How they don't see it? Well, bear with me. Let's look why it's a leap of faith indeed, right? Yes, everything your company does or everything you did as a professional has undoubtedly worked very well, but in a different environment. And it may even have been a more challenging environment. And what you're asking the Canadian buyer to believe is that because it worked then, it's going to work for him here. It's going to work for you. Okay, it worked in that other context, therefore it's going to work for you. And people are like, wow, really? Like, so that's where the leap of faith comes. You're asking them to have the faith that because it worked in a different context, even a more challenging context, now it's going to work for you. But here's the thing. Canadians believe when comparing to the emerging country that you come from. They believe that the Canadian environment offers more stability and a better overall operating environment. And when that happens, all the resourcefulness you're trying to display, amid a very big challenging operating environment, all the creativity and resourcefulness that you had to display, they may look at it and say, well, that's great, good for you, but I'm not sure we need all this here. Here, my preference really is just show me the track record. That's the dreaded phrase that people hear when they move to Canada, which is, what's your Canadian experience? Every professional hears that question, but also every business hears that, okay, show me which clients do you already have in Canada. That's the equivalent of what's your Canadian experience. So here's the thing, Canadians have a very strong preference for a track record that is relatable, right? They want to see that you are able to deliver great solutions to similar problems that they have, and that you already delivered that to clients that are very similar to who they are. So if they are, let's say, a company that employs 50 people, or I don't know, 100 people in Canada, and in a very specific subsector niche of the economy, and you delivered a solution to somebody that had 3,000 employees back home and in another area that was even more complex, Canadians are not going to do that inference, that the reason they think, oh, bigger company, more complexity, therefore they're going to be good for me, which is in a less complex environment than a smaller company. That's not what they're doing. All you're doing is that you're emphasizing that you're great at solving problems that they don't have. That's what the Canadians think, saying, well, you solved this for this other business that is even bigger and even more complex environment, good for you, but you're good at solving a problem that I don't have. So it backfires when you try to use examples that are not relatable, right? If you're trying to display resourcefulness and creativity to a Canadian prospect, in reality, it's not relatable. They don't see themselves in the examples you're giving them. You think you're displaying your capability, but instead of displaying your capability, you're instead emphasizing a poor fit. You're saying, yeah, we're great at solving these other things here. And the guys are, well, but I'm not there. It's like, well, it's what I joke sometimes here. People that know me personally, they know that I use this example. It's like you arriving in Canada and saying, buy from me because NASA is my client or Apple is my client. Take like a big, sophisticated name that everybody knows. And then the guy says, well, sure, but I'm a owner of 3 restaurants and I'm not a space agency, so I don't think what you offer to NASA works for me. So while in an emerging country, if you come dropping big names, you say, well, of course, if this guy sells to NASA and to Apple, of course they're a fantastic supplier and they're interested in talking to me. What an honor. Let me talk to them to see what they can sell to me. It's completely different in Canada. They're going to think, well, I'm not a big tech company. I'm not a big space agency. So no, I'm going to talk to a guy that's used to solving problems of a small chain of restaurants. Okay, if this all sounds complicated, don't worry. You can come on board. We have our Your Business in Canada platform, which is a group and a program, a platform that we have to help companies like yours, people like you, in this process to build a success in Canada. And we're gonna do that together as a group, okay? But how can you actually showcase your capabilities here in Canada in a way that actually the Canadian company, the Canadian prospect will believe your competencies and not trying to do that giant leap of faith to believe that it's transferable? Why don't they see it's transferable? What can you do? Let's look at a few specific things here. Number one, really do your homework. You need to show you understand details of their specific situation. That's why it's so important to do those preliminary information interviews and all that kind of stuff, right? And there's 2 things you should be doing here at the same time. You have an external focus and one internal focus. What do I mean by that? In the external focus, you're focused on the client, on the business, in the problem they may have or the opportunity you may be able to create to them. It's like what's important to them. It's not about demonstrating how great you are or how great are the problems that you solve in the future. It's external focus. You're focusing on them, on your client here. But then there is an internal focus too. But again, it's not about saying and telling people how good your business is. Not at all. It's you need to really understand from the standpoint of the Canadian client what do they expect from a supplier? What does a supplier need to have? And you need to make sure your business is prepared to comply with all those requirements, right? So again, external focus, focus on them. Internal focus, focus on what you need to deliver that it's important to them. In terms of, oh, do I have the environmental regulation? Do I have the right insurance policy? How do I receive the payments? What the finances like? All this kind of stuff. So nothing beats presentation of a success case, right? When you are able to show that you have already delivered results in a situation that's for a similar type of client, that has a similar size, and when you solve a similar problem, then your Canadian prospect is going to see themselves in what you're trying to tell them. They're not going to get impressed by you having had all this display of capabilities, resourcefulness, and creativity in other contexts. But when you show them something exactly like that, they say, oh yeah, I have this problem. Oh, I would love to have this result. Yeah, and I can see it's just like me, this company, right? And here's the thing, you really need to present a quantifiable impact. Like, you need to show numbers. And you say, oh, it's impossible because my clients don't tell me what kind of impact. Estimate. You don't need to have actual super accurate number, but you have a pretty good industry understanding to know how to say, okay, we cut costs by X% or increase sales by Y%, whatever quantifiable result you are able to show. But you need to show numbers. It can't be a story only, right? And you need to demonstrate corporate readiness. Okay, yes, my company is ready to be your supplier. Oh yeah, how you're going to receive the payments? No problem, we have that. Oh, you have the contracts? We demand that all of our clients have a million insurance policy. Oh, no problem, we have that here, ready. It's not like people are not going to be waiting until you get ready. They love your product, say, and this is what I need from a supplier. They say, well, we're going to have to work through it, so bear with me. They're going to move on. Right? So you need to find out ahead of time what is that they need from a supplier so that you do that internal alignment and you demonstrate that you have corporate readiness. And then finally, yes, once a paying relationship has been established, they're already your client and they're paying you, then you may broaden your offerings because now they trust you. Now they have established the trust relationship. They say, wow, these guys are great and they're solving this and they're delivering results. And then you say, yeah, I see you also have that other problem here. And, oh, by the way, I have a situation where we solved exactly that kind of problem. Can we talk about it? Say, oh yeah, sure, let's talk about it, right? So that's how it works if you want to be in Canada in a situation where Canadian prospects, they see your competencies. It's not about, oh, why can't they see that it's transferable? I did fantastic in this other context. Why can't they just understand that it applies to them? That's not their job. They're not going to do that, right? So don't focus on the wrong problem, on the wrong strategies. Don't waste your time, right? Let's get results in Canada. Here are 2 other videos that are helpful in this journey. Thank you.